Roger.
Good evening. Hey folks, thank you for joining me. 10 o'clock on Thursday evening. And I have a day off tomorrow, so yeah, I can relax. Don't have to worry about getting up early. Plenty of you in here tonight so far to take part in this. We have 48 of you at the moment, and hopefully more will come in. 1985, cracking year. And not just for movies, not just for horror movies, but for movies in general. And some of the kind of fun facts that we're going to go through from 1985 are really cool as well. I had a couple of comments last week with regards to Elm Street not finishing first. Friday finished first, of course. Friday the 13th final chapter. But when I looked into it, I drilled down, and there was only a couple people more that voted for Friday. People were saying, oh, you had Elm Street on too early, and so Friday, the vote was skewed towards Friday. It wasn't. When I looked at it, I think around about, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it was something like 40 people voted for Elm Street and 42 people voted for Friday. So it was close, but Friday, there must be more Friday the 13th fans that joined the stream. But what it's left us with is a really interesting final battle that's going to happen at the end of this series. Remember I said that the top two winners of each show are going to go together in a sort of head-to-head in the final episode, which will be, there'll be 20 titles to go into that. So I can show you exactly who's in the final at the moment. Let me just pull that up. Current finalists are the winners from 1980, which were The Fog and The Shining, followed by the winners of 1981, which were Halloween 2 and An American Werewolf in London. The Thing and Creepshow won out in 1982, and Psycho 2 and Michael Jackson's Thriller won out in 1983. That was a wild card that I put in there, and everybody seemed to go with it. And then finally last week we had Friday the 13th, the final chapter, and Elm Street topping out the tier last Thursday for 1984. Cool lineup for the final so far. I don't know who's going to win it. I mean, we've still got, how many weeks we got left now? 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. 5 weeks left to go. There will be a gap, a week where I can't do this, whereas I'm going to be at a convention up north, so I won't be able to do this particular stream. But we'll give it a week's break in a few weeks' time, and then come back probably the week after. But yeah, I would imagine around about 6-7 weeks' time we'll do the final. I was going to try and tie it in so that we could do it around Halloween. That's not going to work now, but you know, unless I do 2 of these a week, and it's just too much work for me to do 2 of these a week, because I do spend the majority of the week planning these things. And thanks to your help as well, when I do put the thumbnails up, now and again you guys chip in with some movies that I've maybe forgotten, or as was the case this week, one of you pointed out, or a few of you pointed out, that Witchboard wasn't actually released in 1985. It was actually 86. And so I've switched that one out tonight. So I've switched that particular movie out with, and I was going to put Nail Gun Massacre in there, but then there was some kind of sort of the release date for that was contentious as well. So I've put Transylvania 65000 in there, which I do remember watching, and I don't actually think it was that good, but I've put it in there anyway in place of Witchboard. Witchboard will come through next week, and next week there's going to be some great titles as well, which I'll share with you at the end of this stream. With at least 10 of the titles I'm going to include next week. I need to drill down a little bit more and make sure that I've got the right amount, the right release dates, because sometimes if you do this via AI, it chucks out the wrong release dates and things like that, so you have to verify everything. It is a quicker way of pulling up titles, but sometimes it just doesn't get it right. And so I've resorted to going back and doing it manually, just to make sure I get things, hunky-dory. Let's have a look and see who's in the chat before we move on. There's 60 of us in here at the moment. Just gone down to 58 as I said that. Let me just reload this page here so we don't get lost. Frank's in here. Hey, Frank. Good to see you. Don Max in here. Was the Bride a late edition? No, the Bride was in there from the beginning, I think, Tony. Tony's here, Adam Allen, Brandon's here. Hope you're feeling better, Brandon. I know you were a bit ill yesterday. You couldn't make the Slaughtered Lamb stream. And thanks to everybody that joined the Slaughtered Lamb stream yesterday as well. Frank and I had a good old time doing that Halloween art episode that we did. Physical Media Lives is here. Good evening, Darren and everyone. Just back from a 4K screening of the restoration of Curse of Frankenstein, and now this terrific stream. Great day. Regards, Alan. Yeah, I've got it on order. I can't wait to see it. I saw some pictures on Facebook of the screening that happened in the UK, Alan. It looked terrific. I guess you had one in Dublin this evening as well. So that's wasn't they not going to release it or ship it to Dublin? Am I right about that? Didn't you have to get someone else to buy it for you and send it over or something? I remember something along those lines. Lifeforce is Hooper's Ultimate Coke Fest, says Myers Fan 1973. Yeah, that's a mental movie. We'll talk about that in a bit. Kingslayer's here. Movie Chat and More's here as well. Hey, Richard. How dare you run your channel your way, says Frankly Speak. Thank you, Frank. Currently on hold with a girlfriend in Fuerteventura watching this, says Wraith UK. Really? I bet you're popular this evening. Actually, maybe it's an hour ahead, so it's kind of like 11:15. Maybe you've turned in early tonight. Who else? Gory Tigers here. Colin's here. This is going to be a tight top tier tonight. So many great films that year. Yeah, I'm going to leave it a couple more minutes before we start, just to make sure that we've got more people in and that I don't get accused of, like, throwing Nightmare on Elm Street aside, because Elm Street 2 is going to come up first this time. So we want to give it a good shot and make sure that enough people have voted on it. How did the horror masterpiece The Terminator not make it? Yeah, it didn't. Everybody wanted it in there, and it didn't quite make it to the top because obviously you had the two franchise movies in Elm Street 2 and Friday Part 4 that not Elm Street 2, Elm Street and Friday Part 4 that won out last week. Duke's here, Shamrock's here. Hey, Shamrocks. Elm Street and Psycho 2 are my top two there. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be close between. I think The Thing is obviously in a really strong position. And then you've got things like, fan favorites that are coming up, like Dream Warriors is going to come up in a few weeks. And Jason Lives is in there as well. So it's going to be really tight. It really is. But at the moment, looking at it, let's just have a look. There is a Friday the 13th movie in there. Yeah, Final Chapter's in there. That's in with a chance as well, because it was incredibly strong last week. Who else? Katie's here. Hey, Katie, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Frankie D, Eloy Cortez. Hey, Eli. Chester's here as well. Darren Page. Who else we got? Robert Ford. Hi, Room from London, UK. Good to see you, Robert. Okay, right. Let's move on to just get you in the mood for it. Let's see what was happening in 1985. There's one event straight away that comes to mind for 1985 for me. A huge event, which I was a huge fan of and still am today. But let's see what happens. Okay, so Back to the Future rules the summer. Marty McFly, Doc Brown, and the DeLorean Time Machine made Back to the Future the highest grossing movie of 1985 and an instant classic. This is my favorite next. Live Aid rocks the world. I remember sitting at home watching it on TV, just being absolutely mesmerized by this concert happening in across 2 continents. On July the 13th, the dual venue charity concert organized by Bob Geldof and Major took place in London and Philadelphia. Queen's set is still considered one of the greatest live performances ever. And Led Zeppelin's is probably considered one of the worst live performances ever as well, I think, on that. Nintendo arrives in America. The Nintendo Entertainment System, NES, was released nationwide in the US, kicking off the video game industry's revival after the 1983 crash. Just got a quick... Ronnie's just sent a super chat saying, nail gun better than all of these. Yeah, because it's cheap and terrible. That's why you like it, Ronnie. Calvin, let me just refresh this 1 second. Calvin and Hobbes debut. Bill Watterson's comic strip about a mischievous boy and his stuffed tiger is launched in November of 1985, quickly becoming one of the most beloved comics of all time. I've never heard of it. Hopefully that's one for you Americans, because I have no idea what Calvin and Hobbes is. And also for Ronnie, we had the first WrestleMania. The WWF, now WWE, launched WrestleMania in March 1985, headlined by Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, and it became Wrestling Super Bowl. Windows 1 launches. Microsoft released its first version of Windows in November 1985, beginning its long journey toward PC domination. New Coke fizzles out. Coca-Cola changed its formula in April 1985, sparking massive backlash. Within months, the company reintroduced Coca-Cola Classic. What a fail. Rocky IV goes full-on Cold War. Sylvester Stallone took on Dolph Lundgren's Ivan Drago in Rocky IV, blending boxing with Cold War drama. The film was a huge hit and super 80s. I remember at school, I got spoiled for me at school. I think on the Friday I was in school and someone had already seen it. Or when was it now? It was like the Monday and someone had seen it on the Friday. I wasn't going till the Wednesday and he said, yeah, it's so great when Apollo dies. Thanks. Why would it be great? We Are the World unites stars. Written by Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie, the charity single brought together dozens of stars, including Springsteen, Tina Turner, and Stevie Wonder to raise money for African famine relief. And there's a great Netflix documentary if you haven't seen it. I think it's kind of like One Night in Music, it's called. Superb documentary all about that, the night they all got together. All these huge egos getting together in this one room. Superb documentary. And MacGyver hits TV. This action adventure series debuted in 1985 with Richard Dean Anderson using science, duct tape, and ingenuity to get out of impossible jams. I remember it on the TV in the UK. It was fun, I reckon. It was okay. Okay. Brandon says Rocky IV is just 6 montages with a few scenes connecting them. Yeah, and a big old Vince DiCola soundtrack as well. Right. I guess we should move over to this screen over here. Let me just click this button there. And you can see that Elm Street 2 is the first movie to vote on. There are 70 of us watching, so now's a good time to vote. I'll put the link in the chat again. Haven't started it yet, but if you haven't yet, there's only, I think there's 20 of you so far that are registered to vote. So folks, if you want to click that tier maker button there, I'll just refresh the page just to make sure that we... you may have to register again, folks. 21 of you. Sorry, there's 21 of you. No, we're all good. 21 of you have registered so far. 23. I'll give it a little bit more for that number to get to increase so that we can give Elm Street 2 a fair crack of the whip. And I'm going to start the voting right now. There we go. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. Coming up for its 40th anniversary on the 1st of November this year. A budget of $3 million. A critic score of 44% and an audience score of 33% on Rotten Tomatoes. Directed by Jack Sholder. Music by Christopher Young, Mark Patton, Kim Myers, Robert Russler, Clu Gulager, however you want to pronounce it. He's going to appear later on in one of the films that we've got to talk about. Hope Lange and Robert Englund. Jesse Walsh moves into the former Elm Street home and begins suffering nightmares and unusual behaviors linked to Freddy Krueger's attempt to possess him so he can return to the real world. Apparently, Freddy only appears on screen for 13 minutes in this film. Interesting. I never realised that before. He's on it very little. The film's homosexual subtext has been interpreted by many critics in retrospect. It had a low budget, but performed well for a sequel, helping keep the franchise alive. And producer Robert Shea also makes a uncredited cameo in the film. 8 seconds left, folks. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the voting's over. Okay, let's see how we did with that one. So 32 of you voted on that. 17, there's 45 participants, but only 32 of you voted. 17 of you put it in first place. 13 in second, 1 in third, 1 in fourth, and none of you put it in fifth. So it's first at the moment in the top tier. We'll see how that fares later on. I know it kind of like it's kind of a bit Marmite with a lot of Elm Street fans, this film. I actually really like it. I do. I think it's you know, I'm in Dave's camp with this over Dave McRae, in that the makeup I think is some of the most terrifying Freddy makeup in the whole franchise, and it has some really cool moments as well. The whole "Daddy can't help you now" and what else have we got in there? The opening scene as well with the school bus I think is really creepy. Not so sure about them the damn birdseed moment, but or cheap birdseed or whatever it is. But no, it's a good movie. I kind of like it. I know a lot of people have received the 4K box set already, certainly in the US, but over here it's not been dispatched for anybody over here. I don't think we're getting it until the end of the month. But I'm looking forward to diving into it. Okay, let's have a look at what you guys are saying about Elm Street 2. So Kingslayer says, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 with its gay undertones doesn't bother me. Doesn't bother you as in what the gay undertones don't, but it doesn't bother. Why would they? Oh, you're saying the film doesn't bother you? I just bought some hair serum. Tony Four Eyes says, okay. Elm Street 2 is so gay, it's awesome. Great makeup effects. Whipping and Elm Street 2 go together, says Ronnie. Daz says, always loved 2, had no idea about anything gay as a kid, even the gay leather bar, I think you mean, just figured out that's what bars looked like. I think a lot of us, I mean, I would have been, 12 or something when this came out, 12, 13 or something when I saw it. And I don't think it really registered with me back then either. I think it's just over the years as we've kind of watched it more, and then it's been more talked about. And Mark Patton did his documentary, The Scream Queen. That people are kind of, you know, coming around to all those theories. Well, they're not really theories. It's kind of right there in front of you, isn't it? Loved Elm Street 2 from when I first saw it on VHS, says Awesome50. And Brandon says it's going to be hard fitting at least 15 of these in the top tier. Yeah, I'm worried about that as well. So I think a lot of these are going to be in the top. Tony Four Eyes says, like this at first, but it hasn't aged well. Okay, I think the makeup has. I mean, the scene at the end in the barbecue when he comes out of the floor in kind of Michael Jackson style, or what do they call that guy who sings Gangnam Style? He does that as well, doesn't he? Comes out of the ground like that. I think that's a great scene. That's, you know, you're all my children now. Fantastic moment in the film. And Colin says, my favorite Elm Street, hands down. Darren, for me, your Elm Street 2 best and worst off is the best you guys have done. Really? Okay, I don't even remember. I think we did it with Dave, didn't we? Did we do it with Dave? Was it the three of us? I'll have to have a look at it again. I've never actually watched it. I edited it and put it out there, and that was about 4 years ago. So I'd have a look at that again. Stephen Green says, I reckon it's better than 3 myself. I think 3 has aged the most out of the first 3 films. I really do, because some of the makeup work doesn't hold up. I don't think some of the effects work. Okay, right. Let's move over to here and see what our next title is. And it is, oh, damn, the Return of the Living Dead's coming out second in this. One of my favorite movies of all time. Absolutely love this film. I'm waiting on a Arrow version of this coming out very soon as well. Okay, released on 18th of October, 1985. What have we got here? Audience critics a score of 94% on Rotten Tomatoes and 85% with the audience. Directed by Dan O'Bannon, Clu Gulager, James Karen, Tom Matthews, Don Calfer, Beverly Randolph. Teenagers inadvertently release a gas that reanimates the dead instead of the typical brain-eating zombies. Teenagers inadvertently release a gas? Well, no, it's kind of it's Tom Matthews and James Karen that release it, I guess. Yeah, I don't know why it says teenagers. Typical brain-eating zombies. The resurrected crave to consume brains specifically, and they cannot stay dead. Panic and chaos erupt as they terrorize a small town. It popularized the brains trope in pop culture. The film mixes horror and black comedy, a tonal balance that has earned it cult status. The film's tagline, they're truly dead and truly rotten. It had less gore than some claim, but its punk aesthetic has earned it cult status. Okay, voting is over. And it's in first place. 19 of you voted it at the top, 7 in second, 2 in third, 1 in fourth, and nobody voted it in fifth place. Wow, I'm pleased with that. I'm pleased with that because I actually do like it better than Elm Street 2. So it's gonna be. I wonder if Elm Street 2. I don't know if it'll stay in the. If it'll get through to the final. I think there's some really strong titles here that are coming up, and Elm Street 2 may not be able to hold it. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. Okay. Darren Garrett says, shame Freddy's Dead is in the 90s, as I'm sure Dave and Frank would vote it in the top tier. I'm not sure Dave and Frank would. I think Chris Stanley would. Chris Stanley's a huge fan. Movie Chat and More, who used a goddamn cherry bomb. I missed the homosexual thing back then, says Tony Four Eyes. I snuck into the cinema to see Elm Street 2 when I was 11, says Colin. Wow. Yeah, I don't think it was at the cinema for very long. And I seem to remember that it came to the cinema not long after we got Elm Street 1 on VHS. The 2 films came out fairly quickly. But I do remember going and renting that big Warner Brothers. Was it Warner's in the UK? I think it was Warner's in the UK. Because I think the original Elm Street was Fox in the UK, if I'm right, Colin. Correct me if I'm wrong, Colin. Was Fox responsible for releasing the original Elm Street in the UK? I seem to remember that. And then it went over to Warner's for the rest of the run. Best version of Freddy, says Neil. Myers fan says US peasants have to wait 4 weeks longer for the Elm Streets. Oh, us peasants, not US peasants. Us peasants in the UK, you're saying, have to wait 4 weeks longer for the Elm Street set. I believe it's because the UK set has all the movies on Blu-ray in place of digital codes that the US got. Yeah, probably. That's probably what it is. It's been good watching everybody unbox them, though. I've enjoyed that. Big Nightmare on Elm Street fan. I love Elm Street 2. It's grown on me through the years. Was obviously to the gay subtext when I saw it as a 9-year-old. It's probably my 3rd, 4th favorite in the franchise. Cool. Thank you, Frankie D. Can't beat a good dance scene, says Batshit Scary. Oh, you're talking about Linear in Trash in Return of the Living Dead. Does anybody know if this new Return of the Living Dead film's still coming out this year? It was supposed to be coming out at Christmas, but I haven't seen a trailer or heard anything about it. Daz says, amazing film, great soundtrack, endlessly rewatchable. Yeah, that trioxin theme I absolutely love. And some of the music tracks as well. Some of the rock tracks, the punk tracks are good. Awesome soundtrack on Return of the Living Dead, says Myers fan. Also, remember the zombies run in this film. They do indeed. Awesome 50 says, Return of the Living Dead, one of my favourite horror comedies ever made. A pure joy, so rewatchable. Oh, I've probably watch it a couple of times a year. Robert Ford says, I've just bought the Elm Street 4K collection. Can't believe it cost me £200. I know. It's, yeah. I think I bought it. I think I bought it in January or something. I've already paid for it, I think. Wraith UK says, wish the 4K set had the UK artwork in the Freddy set. Yeah, I do as well. Some of the, what's his name? Graham Humphrey's artwork is terrific. Batshit says, God, yeah, forgot about the teaser. Looked cheap as hell, didn't it? The teaser? Okay. Maybe, are you talking about Return of the Living Dead or... Anyway, right. Let's crack on with the next vote. If you want to vote, folks, I'll post the link in the chat once more so you guys can join in. And we'll kick off the next round right now. And it is The Bride. Frank's not a fan of this film. I've seen it, but barely remember it. We just found my notes on The Bride, released on the 16th of August, 1985. A budget of 12 to 13 million and a critics score of 27% on Rotten Tomatoes and 33% with the audience. Directed by Frank Rodham. Maurice Jarre did the music. Sting, Jennifer Beals, Clancy Brown, Geraldine Page, and Anthony Higgins with David Rappaport as well. Baron Charles Frankenstein creates a beautiful female companion to his monster while the original creature, Victor, escapes and journeys across the land, eventually intersecting with Eva via a psychic link and dramatic confrontations. The film was a commercial failure, grossing only 3.6 million in the US on its 12 to 13 million budget. 24 seconds left, folks, to vote on The Bride. Currently in fourth place. The film splits its narrative between Frankenstein's attempts to civilize Eva and Victor's journey with his dwarf companion, Rinaldo. 7 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And the voting is over. You've put it in fourth place, folks. 16 of you voted, and thank you for those of you that are abstaining. If you haven't seen a film, it probably helps that you don't vote. If you don't mind, it just kind of makes things a little bit more real if you leave your thoughts out of it if you haven't seen it. Nobody voted it in first place. Nobody in second. One of you voted it in third. 10 of you in fourth, and one of you in fifth. So it's it's leading the fourth tier at the moment, but we'll see. With the quality of some of the movies that we have this evening, it may well finish last. I don't know. Yes, remake due out Christmas time. Is it though? Is it? I've not seen anything. No, I don't think there's been anything out there on this. Robert says The Return of the Living Dead is out at Christmas 2025. Has anybody seen a trailer, or does anybody know of any production stills or anything like that? Frankie D says Return of the Living Dead, great film. One of my favourite zombie flicks. Got the Arrow Video chunky box set coming end of the month. Me too. I've already got it a few times, but I just thought the artwork was so beautiful on that new Arrow version. I just have to have it, especially when it's one of my favourite films as well. Love Return of the Living Dead, one of the most quotable horror comedies. It's not a bad question, Ryan. I'm barely aware of this film's existence. Is that Sting? It is Sting. Yeah. Going from Return of the Living Dead to The Bride, somewhat of a come down, says Awesome 50. Never watched The Bride, but I would imagine Jennifer Beals won't be doing any flash dancing in this film. Is it the same Jennifer Beals? Is it? I guess it is, isn't it? Never heard of it. Never heard of it, says Stephen and Lee. Sting was great in June, says Daz. Sting is a shockingly bad actor. I liked him in Quadrophenia. Remake, imagining coming soon, says just another horror fan. Barely remember it, but I know it's as boring as Wuthering Heights. Jennifer Beals was so damn hot, but that's not enough to save this bore fest, says Brandon. Okay, here we go. Let's kick off the voting again. And this time we've got Spookies. Spookies was one of those that I rented just based on the video cover alone, the artwork, and got it home, and I was just like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I put some interesting shots on that little video at the start of the show. Released 85, well, released at some point in 85, doesn't give me a date here, but a budget of 500,000, directed by Jeannie Joseph, music by James Calabrese and Kenneth Higgins. Cast is Felix Ward, Maria Pachucas, AJ Lowenthal, Peter Lasilo Jr. Various characters converge on a derelict mansion where the occultist Creon seeks to resurrect his wife via human sacrifice and dark magic. As monstrous creatures and undead forces emerge, survivors must fight bizarre horrors and escape before becoming the next victims. 20 seconds left, folks. The original footage came from a film titled Twisted Souls, which was later augmented with new scenes and restructured into Spookies. It's a bit cheap looking, this film. 5 seconds left. 3, 2, 1, 0. There we go. Voting is over. Doesn't it have farting monsters? I can't remember. I'll be honest with you, I can't remember. It's not one that I've ever gone back and revisited since for 40 years nearly. So I can't really remember. Only seen it once, and yeah, that's about it. Saw this on the last drive-in. Wasn't too impressed, says Brandon. I have a copy of Spookies. Never seen it though. Feel I need to be in the mood. Yeah, you do. Yeah. So Spookies has finished. Had 15 votes, and it finished in third place. First in tier 3. Nobody voted it in first, nobody in second, 7 in third, 7 in fourth, and 1 in fifth. Don Max says the variety of creatures in Spookies is impressive, unlike the rest of the movie. Yeah, it's kind of cool for that kind of mid 80s practical makeup, I guess. People in rubber suits and all that sort of thing. Spookies is pretty awful. I remember liking the UK video cover, but that's all. Yeah, that's the only, as I was saying, Awesome 50, that's the only reason why I actually rented it, because it was a horror film called Spookies with a cool cover in the mid 80s. So, yeah, it came home with me. I incorrectly thought it was about horror actors at a haunted house. Yeah, that does remind me of something. I'm trying to remember now what it... Wordy Word Vaughan says, I liked Sting in Brimstone and Treacle. Okay, let's continue. We have Silver Bullet. I know a lot of you like Silver Bullet. I like it a lot. Released in October of 1985 with a budget of $7 million. 43%. That's all it gets on Rotten Tomatoes. Based on I remember looking at the graphic novel of Cycle of the Werewolf, and then seeing Silver Bullet, not knowing that it was Cycle of the Werewolf, and it was kind of a little, watching it, it was like, oh wow, I know this, it's the book, me and a mate of mine, John Morris, I think he was, we were obsessed with the Cycle of the Werewolf, and when this came along, like I said, we had no idea it was the same thing. Directed by Dan Attias. 40 seconds left, folks. In the town of Tarker's Mill, a series of violent murders start to plague the community. A young boy in a wheelchair, Marty, believes a werewolf is behind them. Together with his sister and their Uncle Red, he attempts to unmask and stop the monster. I always thought, I loved Gary Busey in this film. Now he's bless him, he's not very well, is he? But at the time, it was like, I would love an uncle like this guy. He was fantastic in this. The film's got a real, almost got like an Amblin-esque feel to it, I think. I really do like it. And I love the moment where, let me just put that back. I love the moment where the Reverend comes in the room when he first discovers that it's the Reverend that's the werewolf. Spoiler alert. And Brandon says there exactly that line. You meddling little shit. What a great line in that film. So Silver Bullet is in second place. 24 of you voted. 6 of you voted in first place. 15 of you in second. 1 of you in third. 1 of you in fourth. And 1 of you in fifth. I think that's about right. I kind of thought it might be in the top tier because there are a lot of fans of this film. The UK VHS cover was awesome to Silver Bullet. I'm trying to remember it now. I'm trying to remember what it looked like. Oh my God, yeah. I'll have to Google it afterwards. Gary Busey was great in Rookie of the Year. Silver Bullet, back when Gary was still awesome. He was great in this film. I rented this out tons of times on VHS as a kid. Yeah, you know what, Colin? It felt like I kind of sat there with movies like Gremlins and we were talking about and House as well as a sort of gateway horror movie. That's how I saw it. I saw it as a gateway horror movie. Daz says, I was surprised this film had so many fans. Didn't do anything for me. I read The King's Story. Okay. And Robert Ford loved Gary Busey in Under Siege. Love Silver Bullet, says Duke, but the werewolf looks more like a bear. It does look like a bear. It does. Reverend, he was a ton apart. And Silver Bullet, one of the Scream Factory's best transfers. Really? Okay, that's good to know because I don't have it and I've always fancied getting it. I kind of like the narration. His sister narrates the film, doesn't she? I kind of like that. Wear your helmets when you're riding motorcycles, folks. Yeah, Gary Busey, bless him. Silver Bullet, another movie I regret taking so long to watch. Love it, says Matt. And Zara's here. Hey, Zara. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Right, okay. I'll put the link in the chat again so people know it's there to click on and vote. We have 73 people watching at the moment. And kicking off our next vote, which is Re-Animator. 90 seconds to vote on Re-Animator, folks. Another great film from the 80s. 18th of October, 1985. A budget of around about $1 million. 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. Directed by Stuart Gordon. Music by Richard Band. Jeffrey Combs, Bruce Abbott, Barbara Crampton, David Gale. Medical student Herbert West develops a formula that can reanimate dead tissue. He tests it first on a corpse, then on his professor, leading to gruesome consequences and a battle against increasingly unstable reanimated corpses. Re-Animate was made on a remarkably low budget and ended up becoming a cult sensation. The film balances horrific gore with a sharp black humor, which is frequently lauded in retrospective reviews. 30 seconds left to vote, folks. Many special effects, like the severed head animation, were done practically in the basement lab sets. The film's success on VHS and in midnight screenings contributed heavily to its cult legacy and continuing franchise. Richard Band's score is energetic and supports the film's manic pacing. It's been reissued in speciality editions. 10 seconds to vote on Re-Animator. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Vote is over on Re-Animator. And it's top tier. Not good enough to trouble Elm Street and Return of the Living Dead, but 14 votes in first place, 7 votes in second, 6 in third, and nobody voted it in fourth or fifth place. So Re-Animator currently is third place in the overall vote. Yeah, the score's very cool in this film. Daz says, I think the older I get, the less I tolerate the Corys in films. Yeah. Oh, honestly, especially what's his face? The one that's... Who died? Haim died, didn't he? Feldman. I honestly, just watching some of those videos of him and his band is just terrible. Howling 2 is only good one for me. Sybil Danning, says Darren Garrett. Well, we'll get there in a minute. When I first watched Silver Bullet, I thought it was a bear, says Chester. Yeah, a lot of people say that. Myers Fan 73 says Re-Animator is an absolute banger. The effects are still awesome 40 years later. They are. They really are. Practical, you see. I have an intern at work, and I've been trying to get him to watch more films. And one of his tasks is to, over the next month, is to watch 20 classic movies. And last night he watched The Thing, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it. And then following that, he watched The Big Lebowski, and he just said, I don't know what it was. He said, but I just didn't find it funny in the slightest. And I was like, what? You didn't find The Big Lebowski funny? But what he did appreciate with The Thing was the practicality of it all the great effects works and that. You know, he just said it was so obviously not CG, and he said he loved it for that. This is a 20-year-old kid. So still a bit of education to go, but, you know, he's getting there. Okay, recently watched this. Absolutely bonkers, says Lee Wilson. Oh my, how I love Re-Animator, says Awesome50. Brilliant direction, so full of energy. Jeffrey Combs is amazing, and the special effects incredible. Yeah, they are. They really are. Just added the Silver Bullet 4K to my Amazon cart. You guys sold me to try it. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to go on there and try and buy it, and James has just took the last one, I bet. Love the score in this one. Sounds familiar. Yeah, it sounds very Bernard Herrmann, doesn't it, Brandon? Oh, Barbara, love this movie and Bride of Re-Animator, says Colin. Yeah, Barbara Crampton. And as we said last week, who was in Body Double in last week's episode. I like Re-Animator. Wasn't big on the Bride of Re-Animator though. Yeah, I've seen the sequels, but the only one I go back to is this one. Sean Clark's impression of Jeffrey Combs is hilarious. Yeah, he's pretty close with him though, isn't he? He's allowed to do it. Michael Myers, Return of the Living Dead, and Freddy's Revenge are showing at Odeon and Cineworld respectively. Okay, interesting. Love Jeffrey Combs in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Never seen it. Never really watched anything outside the movies on Star Trek, unfortunately. My parents took me to see Star Trek in 1979, and it was after Star Wars, and they must have thought, oh, he'll love it. He'll love Star Trek the movie, or the motion picture, or whatever it was called. It's one of the most boring experiences in the cinema I've ever had. Terrible movie. Re-Animator used 24 gallons of fake blood and actual cow brains to create its gruesome effects. The reanimated corpse in the film was played by Peter Kent, a stunt double for Arnold Schwarzenegger. Really? Okay, I didn't know that. Of all the films in which a severed head performs oral sex, this one is the best one. High Tension is another one, just remembered. Right, Scary Zara says, I bloody love Re-Animator. And Kingslayer says, Jeffrey Combs was in The Frighteners. Sarah also says, I set William that task. Does that make him my intern? He loved Re-Animator too. Combs has a bunch of roles in Star Trek, but as Wayoon, he is best. Wayoon? Was that in Star Trek? Okay. Frankie D says, Re-Animator, love it, so zany, but I prefer From Beyond. Yeah, From Beyond's a sticky old movie, isn't it? That's a gooey old movie. I think that's coming up next week. Next week's episode is From Beyond. Wasn't Feldman the first one booted from Dancing with Stars recently? He was. He was on that show and dancing. Didn't go to any of the rehearsals or anything, so they chucked him off. Okay, let's have a look at that. I agree with your intern, Darren. Wait till your intern gets to Burial Ground. No, we're not going that far. I think he's got What else have we got on there? He's got Godfather, he's got Apocalypse Now, Heat. I've given him to watch, The Shining. What else is on there? There's 10 classic films and 10 cinema visits he's got to do. So yeah. The movies aren't as good as the show, Darren. Plus, the first Star Trek film is universally considered bad by fans. You're not kidding. Like Wrath of Khan is fantastic, but that first one, oh god. The Fog is one of my faves. I'm going to have to drive like an hour to get to a Cineworld. Oh, really? Are they showing The Fog over Halloween? Cool. Okay, let's move on. So we got a lot to get through. We've got another 14 films to do. So let's kick off this vote, which is Phenomena. Or if you're in the UK, Creepers, as it was known in the 80s. They retitled it over here. Where are we now? Where's my Phenomena detail? Okay, yeah, so released in 1985. Budget not reliably documented anywhere. I couldn't find anything, but the critics have it at 76%, and the audience at 67%. Directed by Dario Argento, obviously music by Goblin, Claudio Simonetti, Jennifer Connelly, Donald Pleasance, Dario Nicolodi are, usual sort of Argento regular there, and Fiore Argentino. Sorry, Argento. What am I talking about? A teenage girl arrives at a Swiss boarding school and discovers she has the power to communicate with insects. As strange murders occur, she uses her connection to insects to help track down a killer and to solve the mystery of disappearing victims. The score and soundtrack is a hybrid. Goblin contributed original themes. Simon Boswell also provided musical components. And the title Creepers was used in some markets as a truncated title. Okay, 7 seconds left to vote on this. 4, 3, 2, 1. And the vote is over on Phenomena. And it does well. It's second in second tier. 2 of you voted it in first place, 8 in second, 2 in third, 1 in fourth, and 2 in fifth. So it's doing good. It's currently 5th in the ranking all overall. Obviously some, as usual, a lot of Argento fans in the audience, but some Phenomena fans in there as well. Who's talking about Blood Lake? Did you give him Blood Lake to watch? Blood Lake is, we watched a film for All the Good Names Are Taken last week called Blood Shack. And you'll see that episode coming up fairly soon. Jesus, what a film. Lee Wilson says, haven't seen this, but always hearing good things. Hot take, Phenomena is shite. Really? You think so? Don Mack says it's one of the last great Argento movies. And Wraith UK says, I remember going to see The Thing at Cineworld and the cinema screening was full. That must have been some sort of re-release, right? Amazing Goblin soundtrack, one of his last great movies. I agree with you. Joe's Apartment is a sequel to this. Really? The bug thing? Okay, I get it. Phenomena creeped me out back in the day. An intriguing movie, but a bit heavy-handed at times. Yeah, I know what you mean. Great soundtrack to Phenomena, says Colin. The beginning of the end for me with Argento after The Amazing Tenebrae. Only Stendhal Syndrome from '96 does it for me with later Argento movies. Yeah, I haven't seen. I must admit, I haven't seen Stendhal Syndrome. I must take a look at that. Everybody's saying it's kind of the end of that great run that he had. Probably Argento's last really good film. Another cracking Arrow 4K with all the cuts. Yeah, I've been meaning. I do have a regular Blu-ray of it, but I know there's that great box set that they have that's floating around there. You can get it on eBay and stuff. So at some stage I will pick it up. Robert Ford said Phenomena is okay. I remember hearing something about the chimpanzee playing Ingabit. Jennifer Connelly's finger during filming, requiring a hospital visit to reattach it. Really? Okay. Echoes of the Unknown. I've just tuned in and the first thing I heard was Blood Lake. Sorry I'm late. Been editing my next video. How is everyone? And Daz says, I've only seen the great poster to Blood Beach. It is a great poster. Okay. Let's kick off this next vote. See what happens. Lifeforce. Toby Hooper's Lifeforce. Few different cuts of this movie. Frank and I think we did an episode on it a couple of years ago. Released on the 21st of June 1985. It's a huge budget. 25 million for a Canon film is quite something. Henry Mancini did the music and Michael Kamen did the music, did some rescoring on it. So I think Henry Mancini did the scoring for the US cut. Cast: Steve Railsback, Peter Firth. Peter Firth went to school with my dad. Frank Finlay and Matilda May. A shuttle crew finds a derelict alien vessel in near-Earth orbit and brings aboard humanoid alien corpses. One turns out to be alive and extremely dangerous, feeding on life energy. And back on Earth, alien infiltrates London and drains life. Back on Earth, the alien infiltrates London and drains life from inhabitants, leading to chaos. 30 seconds left, folks. The US version was trimmed from the original longer international cut, with parts of Mancini's score replaced by Michael Kamen's cues for the domestic release. Lifeforce was among the highest budget films produced by Canon, a company more often associated with low to mid-budget genre films like Charles Bronson movies and things like that. 6 seconds left, folks. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Vote is over. Lifeforce finishes third on the second tier. 5 of you voted it in first place, 7 of you in second, 5 of you in third, 2 of you in fourth, and 1 of you in fifth. Yeah, well, I thought Lifeforce would do good. I know it has its fans. Awesome 50 says Lifeforce is such a blast. Beautiful imagery, if you get my drift, and fabulous music scores. Yeah, there was something a bit off with the girl and Toby Hooper, I think, wasn't there? There's some little like anecdotes and things about, you know, the way things had to look down there. Yeah, there's a very hairy film, says Tony. Wraith UK, I remember my parents not letting me watch Lifeforce on VHS at the time. Don't think it was the gore they were worried about me seeing. Yeah. Lifeforce is a movie that I'd like to see get remade, except titled Space Vampires, a perfect title that was rejected. Physical Media Lives says, love Lifeforce, vampires in space, effectively, what's not to love? And Colin says, I only watched this last week for the first time in about 30 years. Really enjoyed it. Batshit crazy, but entertaining. It is batshit crazy. Lifeforce, that big mummified, I can't remember what it is now, on the table, that sort of prosthetic dude that they made, which is really interesting. All that, again, all good practical stuff. Yeah, I have the Arrow 4K version, which I haven't even unwrapped it yet. I need to do that. But it's a few years since I've watched it now. I think I watched it about 3 or 4 years ago with Frank, I think. Colin says, I have a t-shirt of this under its other title, Space Vampires. Cool. Everyone remembers the girl. They certainly do remember the girl in Lifeforce. Okay, let's kick the next vote off, and it is for The Howling 2. It was just called The Howling 2 in the UK. And then there's other titles that it went under, like Howling 2, My Sister's a Werewolf, or Howling 2, Sturber, Werewolf Bitch, or something like that. Directed by Philippe Mora, released in very late 1985. Composed by Stephen W. Parsons, stars Christopher Lee, Reb Brown, Annie McEnroe, Sybil Danning, of course, those end credits. A man attempts to rescue his werewolf sister from a cult led by Queen Sturber, leading him from the US into Europe in a supernatural pursuit. The film has minimal connection to the original Howling, you don't say, beyond the name. Parsons' music credit is present in fan and soundtrack listings, though not well known. The film takes a more fantasy horror hybrid direction. In some territories, the subtitle "Your Sister is a Werewolf with You" was used emphatically to promote the twist, and is often criticized by fans for its loose continuity and uneven tone. But I tell you this, for me, it's one of the strongest Howling sequels, probably the strongest Howling sequels. There are some real dogs out there in this franchise. 7 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. I have a feeling Jimmy Nail's in this film. Yeah, Jimmy Nail's. Michael Myers says Jimmy Nail's in it. Get that 4K open and watch, says Myers fan. Tony Four Eye says, as a 12-year-old, this was an essential watch for all the wrong reasons. UK rental, I remember being called Sturber Werewolf Bitch. Did it? It didn't have that. It might have had it on the actual film, on the titles, but I don't think it had it on the. Did it have it on the box, the artwork? I don't think it did. Solid second place for me, says Power Packers. It's finished second in third place. 2 of you voted it in first place, 4 in second, 6 in third, 4 in fifth, and 5th in fourth. Sorry, 4 in fifth. Sorry, get that right. I'm going to read that again because that was a right balls up. 2 in first. Excuse me. 4 in second. 6 of you voted it in third. 5 of you voted in fourth. And 4 of you voted it in fifth. Tony Four Eye says Howling 2, utter shite. Howling 2 has the greatest end credit sequence of all time. Yeah, it's something like 42 times she does that or something, isn't it? It's a ridiculous number that you see that repeated. Absolute werewolf shite, says Myers fan. Robert Ford said, one of the worst horrors in 1985. Nothing to do with after the events of The Howling. And I loved The Howling. Yeah, The Howling's great fun. Jimmy Nail, pointed out by Michael Myers. Howling 2 is mildly amusing in a so bad it's good way, but it's an awful sequel to the original film, says Rick M. Awesome 50 says, I realised that Howling 2 is not a great movie, but it made such an impact on me as a teenage boy that I still love it. To this day. I bet it did. I think it made an impact on all of us back then. Echoes of the Unknown says, I'm late, sorry, been edited. Oh, we read that out earlier. This YouTube malarkey is tough but fun. There are 2 very good reasons to watch Howling 2, and you see them 18 times at the end. Is it 18? I can't remember the number now. Howling 2 is pure schlock, but a lot of fun. Definitely the best of the sequels, says Michael Myers. That isn't saying much, Darren. Oh, you're on about how this fares amongst the sequels. Yeah. Ah, dear. Yeah, A Breed Apart. Did he direct that? Okay, I remember that film. When they're going after the eggs, I think. Even Sybil Danning and her ample talents couldn't save this movie. I remember Sybil Danning in... Was it Battle Beyond the Stars? I think she was in that, wasn't she? She had that great kind of silvery mask or whatever. Yeah. Michael Myers says, Howling 2, I think, had the same composer as Return of the Living Dead. There's some of the same ambient music early in the warehouse when Jimmy Nail gets it. Okay. I'd have to watch it again to realise that, I think. And I don't know if I've got the energy to watch Howling 2 again. I've got the energy to start the next vote, though, so let's do that. Okay, it's going. And it's House. House. Steve Miner's House from limited release. So this is technically 1985, but a lot of websites cite it as 1986 because... it went wider in 1986. So it had a limited run in early December of 1985. A budget of $3 million. A critic's score isn't reliable at the moment on Rotten Tomatoes. Harry Manfredini did the score, obviously the Friday the 13th composer. William Catt, George Wendt, Richard Moll, Kay Lenz, and Susan French. After the death of his aunt, Roger Cobb moves into her house and confronts supernatural forces tied to his past trauma, including monsters and memory apparitions. The film uses a mix of puppetry, animatronics, and stop motion for its supernatural effects. Its soundtrack includes songs by external artists in addition to Manfredini's score. Though made and dated 1985, its wider release, as I said earlier, came in 1986. Causing date inconsistencies, and Miner had experience in horror. He'd already directed Friday the 13th Part 2 and Friday the 13th Part 3 at this point, obviously. House spawned several sequels with varied tone and quality. I don't think any of them match this movie. And this one, as I said before, it's always like a gateway film. Voting's over, folks. I do remember going to see this at the... No, I tell you what, I didn't go and see it at the cinema. House 2 was the first 15 rated movie that I went to see in the cinema, which I think was the year after this, or maybe it was 87. I can't remember. But this is this is a great movie. Really cool. A great villain as well in Ben. Is it Ben? Big Ben, whatever they call him. The Vietnam vet who comes back at the end and chases him and his son. And that voice as well that Ben has is a real kind of like cartoon-esque villain voice that he has. It's really good fun. It is really good fun when the kid's running around with the severed hand on his back. Some really cool stuff in there. Loved House back in the day, says Lee Wilson. I enjoyed House, but I do find it a bit overrated. Yeah, I think if you went into it now, then it might be... Look, it wasn't... I don't remember it being particularly well reviewed when it first came out. And I remember watching it on VHS and thinking, I actually really enjoyed that. You know, I would have been, I don't know, 13 at the time or something. Only House film I've seen is the Lance Henriksen one, the Shocker clone. Well, that's... The funny thing about that, that's called the horror show. Horror show or horror story? Horror show. And it's only listed as a house movie in the UK. In the US, the horror show is not technically a house movie. It was just branded that way in the UK. And if you buy the Arrow box set, you do get it in there as House 3. But in the US, it was just called, I think it was just called the horror show, which is like Shocker. With Brian James returning from the electric chair, right? And I think Lance Henriksen plays the cop who put him there. And yeah, it's an interesting film. It's actually not a bad movie. House is a great fun scare flick. Rented this a lot when I was a kid. Yeah, me too. An Alley Girl. Hey, Alley Girl, good to see you in here. Awesome poster to House. I love the finger ringing the doorbell. I think it's great. Believe it or not, it's the greatest American hero. It is William Catt, and of Carrie fame as well. But yeah, Greatest American Hero was a TV show in the 80s that I remember where he's this kind of like reluctant superhero, dons this shitty suit and has to learn how to fly and everything, and he just keeps crashing into buildings and that. Good old TV show. This movie was a replacement for Steve Miner's Godzilla movie that went unmade. Oh, really? Okay. House was a lot funnier when it first came out than it is now. I think I like it for the nostalgia, I think. And Feast Your Peepers. Colin says, I actually enjoy House 3 with Lance. Yeah, it's good. It's a straight horror film, isn't it? It's not it doesn't have the tone of House 1 and House 2. In fact, I'd love to get into why they decided to do that in the UK, why they branded it House 3, because they didn't seem to do it anywhere else. And then you had House 4 that came along afterwards, which I think William Catt sort of, like, didn't he have like a cameo in it or something like that, if I remember rightly? Anyway, okay, let's kick off the vote again. Hills Have Eyes Part 2. Wes Craven's Hills Have Eyes Part 2. I think there are 2 Wes Craven movies in this vote, which we'll get to the other one fairly shortly. Let me just find my notes on the Hills Have Eyes Part 2. Released on the 2nd of August 1985. Had a fairly limited release in the US. Really, really poorly reviewed. 13% on Rotten Tomatoes. Music by Harry Manfredini. I did not know that. Tamara Stafford, Kevin Spiritas, Robert Houston, Michael Berryman, Jonas Blythe, Penny Johnson, and others. Survivors from the first film return. A group heads into the desert to race bikes, gets lost, and fall prey once again to the mutant cannibals. Tensions build, confrontations ensue, and the group fights to survive in the harsh desert terrain. Film was shot in 83 but faced funding issues, resulting in a delayed and truncated production. Okay, I never knew that, actually. Several cast members, Michael Berryman, Jonas Blythe, and Robert Houston, returned from the first Hills Have Eyes. Critical reception was overwhelmingly negative. Many lists call it one of the weaker sequels in 80s horror. The film ends with the antagonist Reaper apparently falling into a mine shaft and visually dramatic but arguably abrupt finale. Isn't there like a dog flashback scene as well in this, if I remember? Voting's up. Not a lot of love for the... I like the artwork on the Hills Have Eyes. I think that's pretty cool. I was always kind of drawn to the artwork on this. Was it Colin will remember? I think it was Thorny MI that released this in the UK. And the packaging always kind of drew me in. And it was years before I actually rented it. I think it was probably the late 80s before I saw this film. And I had seen the original Hills Have Eyes, but I just think it was probably people around me that were saying, oh, it was shit, so I never bothered. But yeah, it's in 5th place at the moment. 21 voters. Nobody voted it in first place. One of you voted it in second, so there is a kind of a fan there out there. 3 of you in 3rd, 4 of you in 4th, and 13 of you, that's pretty damning, voted it in 5th place. Let's see what you guys are saying about the Hills Have Eyes. Actually, I'm just going to take a little sip of my drink here. Yeah, the Hills Have Eyes 2, the remake Hills Have Eyes 2 is not great either. Whereas the Alexander Aja remake of the Hills Have Eyes, I think is better than the original. I don't know if Colin would agree with me on that, because I know you're a huge fan of the original. And I remember when we were at the convention for the Love of Horror last year, Colin, you spent quite a bit of time with Michael Berryman, right? He was at the convention. Can I get past the dog having a flashback, says Brandon. This film is the worst thing Craven ever did, and that includes Music of the Heart. Rick M says this is another mildly amusing, so bad it's good film, but a terrible sequel to the supremely creepy original. H2, a video cover that blatantly lied to you, promised everything and delivers feck all, says Myers fan. And Robert Ford says the Hills Have Eyes Part 2 was rushed into production with a large portion of the film made up of outtakes and unused footage from the original film, which Craven later disowned. Is that true? I didn't know that. Okay. I've never really... It's just one of those films that I've just kind of... Like, I'm not a huge fan of the original Hills Have Eyes. I just find it a kind of grubby little movie. It's okay. I can watch it. I do love the remake. I think the remake, because the remake came around at that time. I was big on Alex Arger because of High Tension, and he did this, and I was just like, there was all that kind of French extremity going on at that time, and he came over to Hollywood and brought some of it over, and so I was like, this is great. This guy's bringing proper horror back to Hollywood. And so I was really impressed with the Hills Have Eyes. I thought it was probably the best of all those kind of remakes that were going on at the time. Maybe, Texas Chainsaw was up there with it as well. But yeah, I think the Hills Have Eyes remake's terrific. Wayne's World Dog Flashback, says Wraith UK. And Power Packer says it was released on home video as House 3 for more name value. Okay. So was it House 3 in the US? I always thought it was called The Horror Show in the US. I'm pretty sure. Anyway. How was Ruby treated as normal? She was a cannibal, says Tony Four Eyes. Crap, I meant 4th and voted 2nd by mistake. I don't think it'll make a difference to this overall. Power Packers. The only thing I like about Hills Have Eyes 2 is the music, but the movie was terrible. No, it's nobody loving Hills Have Eyes 2. Deshaun says, "Hey Darren, hey everyone. Sorry a little late. No worries, Deshaun. You can. You're welcome to vote. I'm going to put the. Good to see you in here. I'm going to put the link in the chat. There you go. It's in there already, but I just like to put it in the body of the chat now and again. I just want to check that I'm not missing anything. Other than that, Ronnie super chat. There we go. It's all good. Is that Eddie Munster on the post? Someone's pished and pressed the wrong selection. What's your poison this week, Darren? I'm actually having a famous grouse actually this week with a bit of lemonade and a straw for medical reasons. I think that has to be the mayor from RoboCop. The mayor from RoboCop. The mayor from RoboCop 2. I'm missing that. It wasn't outtakes of the original. It was flashback padding scenes lifted whole from the earlier film. Okay. A bit like what they did with Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, I guess. I prefer the sequel to the OG sequel. The sequel remake to the OG sequel. I prefer the sequel remake to the OG sequel. Okay. Right. I get what you're saying, Gina. Bonkers. Deadly Friend is next year. I actually don't mind Deadly Friend. I think there's some really creepy moments in Deadly Friend. Michael Myers says, looks a bit like the bladder-faced werewolf dude in The Howling. I know what you mean, yeah. Yeah, when he's changing in the... is he changing in the porno cinema a little bit at the beginning? He starts to kind of... And then there's a bit later on in the movie. Okay, let's kick this off. It was horror show in the US and cut to pieces for its rating, but then so was Shocker. Okay, Michael Myers says. Thank you for clarifying that. Let's kick off the next vote. Here we go. Ghoulies. Okay, so Ghoulies. Let me find my notes. 18th of January, 1985. A budget, apparently, of $5 million. Luca Bercovici directed it with Richard Band and Shirley Walker, who did the music on it. Shirley Walker, who did some music with John Carpenter. She did the Escape from LA score, if I remember rightly. Peter Liapis, Lisa Pelican, Michael DeBarres, Jack Nance, what a name, and Mariska Hargitay. Synopsis is Jonathan Graves stirs up a demonic ritual that unleashes small demonic creatures, the ghoulies, that wreak havoc across his mansion. The AFI catalogue lists its budget at $5 million. The dual composer credit, Brad and Walker, is somewhat unusual in horror films. The infamous poster of Ghoulie in a toilet was conceived late as a shock marketing concept. Mariska Hargitay appears in one of her earliest screen roles here, and the film originated under the working title Beasties, supported by Charles Band's Empire Pictures. 10 seconds left to vote, folks. I wasn't a fan of Ghoulies. I watched it once. I really can't remember much of it. Not a fan at all of this film. Gremlins ripoff. Yeah. Did I say Goonies? I'm sure I said Ghoulies. I didn't say Goonies, did I? Never liked Ghoulies. Much preferred Critters. I liked Critters as well. I think that's next week, Critters. At least the poster tells you what to expect. Shit. To be honest, I haven't seen it, says Daz. Kingslayer says, Ghoulies is awful. Wasn't a fan of this shite. Echoes of the Unknown says, Ghoulies, this is a really terrible year for horror. No, it's a good year for horror. There's still some crackers to come here. There is. There's at least 3 or 4 movies that are coming up, which are really decent. We have Gremlins at home, says Powerpackers. Myers Fan 73 says must have been a coke dealer on set. Critters is better than Ghoulies, says Kingslayer. Jack Nance is the guy from Eraserhead. He was also in Twin Peaks and was murdered in real life. Oh, geez. Wow. Robert Ford said, love the Ghoulies. Just reminds me of a mix-up of the Gremlins and Critters. And Wraith UK says, the UK VHS of Ghoulies had me as a child checking the toilet for these little bastards for years. Yeah, I remember the case was like, it was an EV case, if I remember, Entertainment in Video. And it had like a pink border with the toilet. And it was slightly different artwork to what we're seeing on the screen there. But anyway, let's kick off the next vote. Ghoulies finishes last, by the way, I should say. 0%, nobody voted it in first place. Five of you voted it in second. 4 of you in third. 4 of you in fourth, and 6 of you in fifth. And it finished last. Okay, wow. Just looking at this here, why did it finish? Okay, I guess all the voting was in the bottom half. Right, let's go. Next film is Fright Night. I'm actually waiting on my 4K Steelbook of this arriving tomorrow, I believe. Very excited about that. Here we go. 2nd of August, 1985. A budget of around about 8 million, 76% on Rotten Tomatoes. Directed by the great Tom Holland. Brad Fiedel did the music for this. Chris Sarandon starred with William Ragsdale, Amanda Bears, Roddy McDowall, and Stephen Jeffries. Teen Charlie Brewster suspects his new neighbor is a vampire. When no one believes him, he enlists the help of TV horror host Peter Vincent to battle the undead. The name Peter Vincent is a nod to horror legends Peter Cushing and Vincent Price. During filming, William Ragsdale fractured his ankle, which disrupted part of the schedule. A vocal version of Come to Me appeared on the soundtrack album, though only the instrumental is used in the film. And the film balanced horror and humor, contributing to its lasting popularity. It remains a staple of 80s vampire cinema, spawning remakes and sequels. Yeah, it's still the best out of the whole franchise. And some great practical effects as well, particularly towards the end. There's some great stuff in this movie. 10 seconds left. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Look at that. It's first. That's amazing. First place. 28 of you voted it in first place. 3 of you in second, 1 in third, nobody in fourth and fifth. Elm Street 2 is not going to make it to the final. Currently, the 2 titles heading towards the final are Fright Night and Return of the Living Dead. But we have at least, I think, maybe 1 or 2, maybe 1 title that can challenge Return of the Living Dead for second place here. That's amazing. Ah, dear. Fright Night is top tier, says Awesome 50. Zara says, I'm not voting. I buggered everything up the last time. Traumatized. Oh, give it a go. Come on. James says, wait, Spider-Man. He wasn't born yet. What are you talking? Tom Holland. Oh, okay. No, Tom Holland, the director. Movie chat and more. Tom Holland wrote Psycho 2, I believe, as well. In my top 10 movies of all time, says Richard. Fright Night is fucking awesome, says Adam Allen. Best vampire film. The 4K Steelbook is awesome. Cool. I'm getting it tomorrow, I think. Can't wait. Can you believe I have to pay for that? And I work for the frigging company. This better be at the top when this show is done, says Nick. Well, at the moment it is, Nick. It's going to be difficult to knock this off the top, I can tell you, because the movies that we've got left, I don't think are going to trouble it. Maybe 1 is going to trouble it. Fright Night is in my top 3 of 1985. Great film. Love it. Even the updated version is good. Ali Girl says, I just need Darren to read me books. I haven't got the time for that, Ali Girl. Echoes of the Unknown. Now you're talking. You're so cool, Darren. What are you talking about? Oh, you're so cool. Okay, you're doing the Brewster thing. Kingslayer says, Marcy from Married with Children was Charlie's girlfriend. I haven't got time to read books, Ali Girl. No, but I read them to you. Myers Fan 73 says Fright Night is class. Everything about it is great. The 4K is another stunning Sony release. Cool. I'll look forward to looking at that hopefully this weekend. You're so cool, Brewster, says Brandon. Wow, didn't know about that. Brandon Cole. Okay, so you're on about the guy getting killed. Don Mack says we still have Day of the Dead to vote on. This is true. And I hate Evil Ed. I think he ruins my first watch, as I hated this film for so many years until I gave it another watch. A fantastic film. Yeah, I know what you mean. He is a little annoying. And Shamrock says, not surprised. Let's be honest. Elm Street 2 isn't realistically top tier, even though I love it. Ooh, interesting. Okay. Brandon Collins says, I still blast Good Man in a Bad Time all the time. Love this film. Tom Holland also directed Child's Play. He did indeed. Great director, says Duke. Ali Girl says, a girl has to try. I appreciate what you're saying, Ali Girl. Thank you very much. Power Packer says, I will read anyone a book. Charge them five books. He also directed Thinner. Yep. Can't wait for Fright Night 2. I'm not a fan of Fright Night 2. It's okay. Fright Night is great. So much fun. Tom Holland, the screen written and director. I love his works. He also wrote and directed Child's Play, says Frankie D. And Colin says, Fright Night is my second favourite vampire film of the 80s. The first being Near Dark. I'm actually having a double feature of both after this, as it's the 38th anniversary of Near Dark's release today. It is. I saw you post some pictures of the not 4K versions of the film, because there isn't a 4K version of the film. There should be, but they're obviously having trouble with the elements or something like that. Okay, let's move on. Let's go on to the next one, which is Friday Part 5, a movie that when it first came out, I was ultimately disappointed with, and then over the years kind of gotten to enjoy it. It's a shame that it was butchered like it was. Released on March the 22nd, 1985. 2.2 million budget. What have we got now? Directed by Danny Steinman and music by Harry Manfredini. Melanie Kinnaman, John Shepard, Shava Ross, Tom Morga, obviously, as Jason in this, and Corey Feldman, who has a cameo at the start. After his traumatic past with Jason, Tommy Jarvis is placed in a halfway house where new murders begin, and he must question whether Jason has returned or whether someone is perpetrating a copycat spree. The film features a false Jason twist. Jason is not the killer. Manfredini returned as composer, maintaining musical continuity in the franchise. Internal production challenges and script revisions affected the final cut. The film's performance is considered among the weaker entries in the series, and Corey Feldman, former series lead, makes a brief cameo to tie continuity threads. 15 seconds left, folks. Yeah, the kills in this film are very disappointing. They're pretty much all off camera, aren't they? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Voting over. Yeah, they'd had enough of the slashers and the horrors of the 80s of the MPAA at this stage, and they just butchered this film massively, which is a shame. It's top tier, 4th place in the first tier there. 16 of you voted it in first place, 11 of you in second. 4 of you in third, 2 of you in fourth, and nobody voted it in 5th place. Let's see what the comments are like for this. Vincent Price declined the role, but the part went to Roddy McDowall, who reportedly did not think Peter Vincent was in the same league as Price. Can you imagine Vincent Price doing that at that point in his life? Wow. I think Roddy McDowall did a great job. To be honest, Tom Holland is who we have to thank. Who to thank for the Chucky we got. Don Mancini's idea was very different. Don Max says Fright Night Part 2 is a decent sequel. Brandon Collins says, I read a smutty book, but I'll do it in the fake Chicago accent. That will cause an early menopause. I'll read a smutty book, he says. Friday Part 5 is underrated, says Shamrock. Yeah, I think so. I think it has a certain amount of charm as a Friday film. I love the kid in this film, especially when he jumps on the tractor at the end. I love that moment, and especially when the tractor connects with Jason, or fake Jason, and hits him in the chest and throws him across the farmyard. It's, you can imagine that, the pain on the. It's kind of like, if you remember in Superman 2, there's a moment in Superman 2 where Ursa picks up a like manhole cover and flings it like a frisbee at Superman, and it hits him in the stomach and throws him across the road into a like a cigarette van or something like that. And I always used to think, the pain that you must get from that, being slugged in the guts with that manhole cover. It's kind of the same as this, of being hit by a tractor. Roy did a great job in Part 5. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Awesome 50 said, Friday 5 I've grown to like over the years. Still think they didn't make the most out of an interesting concept, but it's a lot of fun. White Rose says, isn't this the one where the dude washes his balls in the lake after being on the job? I think it might be. Friday the 13th Part 5 has grew on me, and Deborah Voorhees is stupendous. Yep. Thanks for the spoiler, Darren. What spoiler? 40 years old, man. Get over yourself. Friday 5 is good, sleazy, trashy fun. Friday 5 is a really solid horror flick, says Myers fan. Wraith says, I still haven't managed to get my girlfriend to sing to me while I'm on the shitter. Ooh, baby. I've grown to love Friday the 13th Part 5 after first hating it. I think everybody has. I think we were all just duped by it when it first came out, and it was just like kind of, you know, it's not Jason. Well, then this doesn't feel like a Friday the 13th film. But I think when you revisit it, I think it's actually quite cool. I think some of the moments I really enjoy in it. Robert Ford said, I don't mind the film. I know Corey Feldman only made a brief appearance because he was filming The Goonies. Yeah, didn't he like film it in his back garden or something like that, if I remember rightly? I love Friday Part 5. Prefer it over the OG. Rate Scary says, I'll wait for the 2014 live so I can vote Tusk #1. Tusk. Somebody was asking me about that film today at work. Jesus Christ. You still got to watch Snake, Zara. Or as it was called. This was like H3, hated at the time because no Jason, Michael, but grown to... Hang on a minute, let me read that again. This was like Halloween 3, hated at the time because of no Jason or Michael, but it's grown to be loved. Yeah, and I think that, you know, over time, maybe people will think the same about Halloween Ends. Power Pack says, so bad it's good. Last classic era Friday, in my opinion. Reggie was hilarious. Yeah, that was the kid, wasn't it? Ethel was fucking awesome. A lot of love for Friday 5 here. 4th place in first tier. There is a good vampire film from the 90s directed by John Landis called Innocent Blood. I have seen it. I have. It's okay. Dick Warlock did work on Part 5 because there are photos of him dressed up as Myers on the set. And he had a little photo shoot with Tom Morger, if I remember rightly. Tusk is underrated, says Brandon. Yeah. Okay, let's continue the vote. Demons. I love Demons. Demons is great fun. Demons is just bonkers. 4th of October 1985. Budget of 1.8 million. 75% on Rotten Tomatoes. A lot of love for Demons. Lamberto Bava and obviously Claudio Simonetti did the score for this. Urbano Barbrini, Natasha Hovey, Fiore Argento starred in this. During a horror film screening, viewers begin transforming into demons. Those remaining must fight their way out as the demon outbreak spreads into the theatre. This film's just nuts. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend watching Demons. It just makes no sense whatsoever. The score blends Simonetti's synth composition with licensed 80s rock metal tracks. There are a lot of big kind of hair rock bands that play on this soundtrack for this film. Simonetti has performed the Demon score live in anniversary concerts. I once saw him do Dawn of the Dead live with Goblin. It was fantastic. Well, we watched the film. It was terrific. Michelle Soavi, later a director, appears on screen in a minor role. 17 seconds left to vote, folks. The film's concept was originally intended for anthology format, but was expanded. Its cult following continues, in part due to its energetic visuals and soundscape. Yeah, it just rockets along, does this film. Voting's over on Demons. Like, there's this nonsensical ending, like they're trapped in this theatre. Nothing can get them out of there at all. It's just full of people turning into these bloody demons. And then all of a sudden, a fucking helicopter crashes through the roof for no reason. Like, it's just like an accident that happens that allows them to get out. It's just bonkers. The movie's bonkers, but I love it for that. And Demons 2's fun as well. Awesome 50 says, no chance Halloween Ends is terrible. But you would have said that in 82 about Halloween 3 as well. It needs time to breathe. Like, and I'm not the biggest fan, but I do think it will be reevaluated in maybe 20 or 30 years' time. Nah, Halloween Ends will forever be garbage. Like, everyone knows they won't down. End sucks. Odd way to spell great. Where's that? Has somebody spelled something wrong? I absolutely love Demons, says Don Mac. I also love Demons too. Would really love to see this in the cinema. Tony the Pimp is iconic. He's hilarious. I agree, Tony. Ends is one of the... Oh, God, what have I started here about Halloween Ends? Demon is fantastic. What a soundtrack. Great visuals, effects, and it's just balls to the wall nuts. Demons is so much fun, and so is Demons 2. Demons has everything you want in a no-brainer gore fest. I remember the VHS cover of this from the video store, but never saw it. You should have watched it. Hey, dude, sorry I was looking forward to this one, but got hung up tonight. 10 minutes and I'll hop on for the end. No worries, Paul. Take your time, man. I love this film, but when it first watched it in 1985, the original UK video release was cut by over a minute, removing graphic scenes, including 2 eye gouging scenes and a brain being ripped out. Oh, it's nuts. The uncut version's terrific. Halloween Bellend, says White Rose. Demons 2 is more bonkers than the first. Demon 2's in the apartment block, isn't it? If I remember rightly. I've only seen Demons 2 once or twice. But the original Demons I've watched loads of times. The Italians in those days weren't concerned with crap like plagiarism laws, animal welfare, or plot continuity. No. Like, love Demons. Yeah, the helicopter falling through the roof. How convenient. Because for years, like, in this movie, for years, I've always convinced myself that I've missed something about that. And each time I watch it, I'm like, is there some sort of like exposition early on about a rogue helicopter pilot or a kamikaze helicopter pilot or a dodgy, I don't know, it's just something that gives you a hint as to why that thing just crashes through the roof at the end. It just does. And it saves the day. But there's no mention of it. I have Snake sat next to me on the sofa right now, ready for this weekend. Does anybody remember that film with Dirk Benedict? It's basically the same story as Tusk, where I think he gets kidnapped and experimented on, and they turn him into a snake. It's like an early 70s kind of horror, like schlock horror film. I remember seeing it on TV a few times, probably back in the 80s. And I convinced Zara to buy it because she's such a huge fan of Tusk. And Tusk is, in my eyes, from what I remember of Snake, or as it was called as well. Says Tom Mac. It's kind of a Tusk is kind of a rip-off of all this Halloween End chat going on at the moment. Okay, let's move over to... so Demons finishes... let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the first tier. It's top tier. 20 voters on it. 10 of you voted it in first place, 5 in second, 4 in third, and 1 in fifth. And we have 71 people watching at the moment. Folks, if you haven't liked the stream, if you could, that would be great. That would really help. And if you're not subscribed and you're here for the first time, you're welcome to vote. And... consider subscribing if you could. Tony Four says Snake was on TV a few months back. Cool. It was Dirk Benedict, the guy who played Face in A-Team, and I think he played He plays Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica as well, if I remember right. The TV series that they bundled together as a couple of episodes and put on the cinema in the UK. Made us think they were movies. Okay, let's move on. Here we go. Day of the Dead. Now, this is the only one which I think can challenge Return of the Living Dead to get into that top 2. We're in the top tier. We're in the top tier at the moment. Amazing film. Amazing film. 30th of June 1985. Romero wouldn't succumb to the MPAA's demands for cuts and things, so released it unrated, and so it was kind of a commercial disaster. John Harrison did the music, also did the music for Creepshow as well. I think he may have edited this film as well. He was a bit of a dab hand at a lot of things, was John Harrison. Laurie Cardille, Terry Alexander, Joe Pilato, Richard Liberty. In an underground bunker during a zombie apocalypse, scientists and soldiers clash over survival strategy while studying a zombie named Bub, who shows signs of evolving cognition. Romero released it unrated to avoid required cuts, as I said. Harrison's electronic score was later remastered in a 2C expanded edition by La La Land Records, which I have, which is signed by him as well. I was lucky enough to be one of the first to order it, and it came signed. It's currently 4th in the first tier here. There is 7 seconds left. This isn't going to change, I don't think. 4, 3, 2, 1. 4th in the first tier. The film underperformed, as I said before, but gained cult acclaim, and the audience score exceeds the critical score, showing its stronger cult reappraisal. Let's see what you guys are saying. So, well, at the moment, 17 of you voted it in first place, 7 in second, 3 in third, 1 in fourth, 2 in fifth. 2 of you voted it in fifth place. Day of the Dead? Really? Okay, fair enough. I've been reading the original script for Day Online, and it's a lot different than the screenplay. Yeah, the budget just kept getting cut, unfortunately, on this. Day of the Dead just doesn't do it for me. I love Dawn way too much, and Day just doesn't compare to it. Interesting. Okay. I kind of like them both. I think Dawn is slightly ahead for me, but I still love Day. They're both 2 completely different movies. But I just love that feeling of claustrophobia in Day of the Dead. And that moment when the zombies breach, coming down on the lift, is just awesome. And it's just the variety of zombies in this film. You know, you've got soldiers, you've got clowns, you've got there's some woman who's like been washing up because she's got marigolds on, and it's just a bride. There's all sorts of zombies in this. The variety is fantastic. Brandon says, I love Day of the Dead. It suffered at the time for not being as good as Dawn, but that opinion is different these days. And we've got the 4K to look forward to coming out in a few months. They just did a massive screening of it over in the US, did Scream Factory. A lot of people saw it and have been doing reviews online for it. They said it looks absolutely amazing. It was taken from the Interpositive, if I remember. They found the Interpositive for this film and were able to remaster the film in 4K, which has been something people have been waiting for a long time. So great news there. Something really exciting to look forward to. Kingslayer says, I've always preferred Day of the Dead to Dawn. I think Dawn is so silly. Okay. Ends is great. So is Demons and Demons 2. Thank you, Chunky. I love the gore effects in Day of the Dead. Just not a fan of the film. Oh, it's peak Savini. He's at the top of his game with this film. His makeup effects are incredible. Like, I used it in the clip. The moment where the guy gets his arm bitten and they hack it off with the machete, and the way that she sort of scrapes that arm away dragging the machete across the concrete and then cauterizes it, you'd swear it was real. It looks insanely real. It's one of his best effects scenes, I think, is that. It just really makes me cringe every time I see it. And the score, John Harrison's score while all that's going on, is terrific as well. Tony Forai says, before anyone asks, it was me that voted this bottom tier. I hate this. Really? Effects wise, Day is the best movie in the original Romero trilogy, says Duke. Awesome 50 says, Day of the Dead, just a stunning, intelligent horror movie. Everything about it's class. Script, acting, effects, and music. My favorite of Romero's Dead movies. Tom Savini's best movie makeup in this movie. Colin says, this is my #1 film of 85. Absolutely love this movie. Never been a huge fan of this, says Daz. Like so many, most of the cast is pretty weak to me, apart from Bub, Rhodes, and Frankenstein, but great effects. Day of the Dead in 5th. Madness, says Ortham. Yeah, I'd like to have seen it be... Well, it's 4th. Hi guys, hi Darren. Sorry, catching the tail end. No worries, Marisol. No worries at all. You've been around for all of them, so you've put more than enough time into these streams. Frankie D says, Day of the Dead, what a banger. Love Bub the Zombie, like Return of the Living Dead. It's one of my favourite all-time zombie flicks. Bunkachino, I enjoyed Day so much more as an adult than I did as a kid. And Robert Ford said, I always remember watching the trailer for the film and shit myself when the woman goes up to the wall and loads of hands come out of it. Yeah, it's a great teaser. It's a really great teaser trailer. Those three are one of those rare perfect trilogies like the original Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Toy Story, Indiana Jones, Back to the Future, and Dollars. Yeah, I'd agree. It was real, Darren. What, hacking his arm off? Romero said Bub and Day was smarter than Big Daddy in Land. Okay. And Adam Allen says Day of the Dead is fantastic. Thanks for all your comments there on that one. There's obviously a lot of love for Day of the Dead out there. Good to see, because it's one of my favorites. And like I say, I'm so excited for this new 4K that's coming along. Let's kick off the next vote. It is Chiller. Who remembers Chiller? This is a kind of forgotten about Wes Craven movie from 22nd of May 1985. It was a TV movie he made. Wes Craven directed, music by Dana Kaproff, starred Michael Beck from Warriors and Xanadu, Beatrice Straight, Laura Johnson, Dick O'Neill, and Paul Savino. Cryogenically frozen man is revived years later, but he returns without his soul and begins to transform and manipulate his surroundings in morally twisted ways. It's a creepy little film. It's decent for a TV movie. I remember it being on the TV in the UK, and I think Fox released it on VHS in the UK in the mid-90s as well, if I remember rightly. It's had limited home video releases. Oh, there you go. Making archival data source. Some promotional sources misattribute directorial or other credits. Okay, well, what's the point of putting that there? Its pacing and character development are often criticized in retrospective reviews. And the composer Dana Kaproff is better known for television work. The score has not been broadly released. 5 seconds left, folks, for Chiller. 2, 1, 0. Let's pause that. Only 9 people voted. I'm guessing not a lot of people have seen this one, so thanks for abstaining. One of you put it in first place, 2 of you in second, 2 of you in third, 3 in fourth, and 1 in fifth. And it's currently second place in the 4th tier there. I think it's okay. I think it's a creepy little film. Yeah, as Tony Forai said, scared me as a kid. I haven't seen it for a long, long time, but I do remember Michael Beck looking particularly scary when they defrost him. You know, he's kind of got this kind of blue zombie type look to him, and the lips and all that are kind of purple, and yeah, it's an interesting little movie. Let's have a look. Hello, is there anyone alive out there? Yeah, the start of Day of the Dead. Never heard of Chiller, says Rick M. Chiller made quite an impact on me when I saw this as a kid, says Awesome 50. Solid TV movie. Paul Rowe says this was decent but average. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I know of Chiller, a Craven bio. which I've lost that. I've read discusses it, but I haven't seen. No interest in checking it out. I've seen some of the other Craven TV films. Okay, at least best. Chiller scared me as a kid. Yeah, we said that one. I just watched Chiller for this. Found it on YouTube. Interesting concept, but dragged down by the limits of being a TV movie. You watched it for this? Oh, thank you, Don Mac. That's cool. Myers Fan 73 says Craven was doing the new Twilight Zone TV series at the time. I believe that's how it came about. Definitely a TV movie. Yeah, I mean, I guess that because he had Hills of Ice 2 this year, but as we said, that was made in 1983. And then I guess after Chiller, he probably went straight into Deadly Friend because that came out in 86. Not seen The Bride, even though I have it. I'd agree with the vote so far, but would put Hills 2 and Ghoulies as third tier. Okay, cool. What's this say? All I can say is Ice to see you, Ice. It's only seen it around the late 80s. Okay. Blake says Nightmare on Elm Street at the top is ridiculous. Yeah, Blake and Ronnie are doing a couple of... They've just done 2 episodes on there. They're doing 31 days of Halloween, episode a day. They did Elm Street 3 for their first episode, Elm Street 4 for their second episode, and they're shitting on both movies. And it's interesting and fun to watch. So go check them out, folks. They have a good channel over there. It's a lot of fun. Okay, let's kick off the vote. We have 3 movies left. Let's get this vote going. Cat's Eye. So Cat's Eye was directed by Louis Teague, who also did Cujo. 12th of April, 1985, a $7 million budget. So this is probably like one of the most expensive films we've talked about today. One of them, anyway. I think there was one that was kind of about 9 million, wasn't there? Alan Silvestri did the score. Cast: Drew Barrymore, James Woods, Alan King, Kenneth McMillan, and Robert Hayes. A Stray Cat links together 3 separate Stephen King stories. One about smoking, one about a high-stakes ledge, and one about a troll under a child's bed. The cat named Goose serves as the bridge between the vignettes. Silvestri's score uses synth instrumentation and changes tone across segments. 40 seconds left, folks. Forced perspective and optical effects were used heavily in the ledge sequence. King had input into the linking material, tying the stories together, and the Entrada expanded release includes previously unreleased cues and detailed liner notes. An odd bit of trivia they gave me there. Paul says Day of the Dead, although not in the Things League, is near perfect for me. Got the tone perfect. The best straight zombie film. Return being the second best zombie film for me. Okay, 8 seconds left, folks. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And Cat's Eye finishes third in the second tier. 18 voters. 3 of you voted it in first place, 10 in second, 4 in third, 1 in fourth, and nobody voted it in 0. I've seen it once. I don't remember a great deal about it. I think I saw the trailer plenty of times. But yeah, Cat's Eye is not something I've gone back and revisited since we got that Canon VHS in the UK back in the mid-80s. What happened to Louis Teague? He directed a lot of good movies. He did at the time. Yeah. It'd be good to... Actually, is he still alive? I don't know. James Wood's story was great. He was hilarious in this part. Cat's Eye is crap. This Myers fan. I watched it a couple of weeks ago on 4K and that didn't even help. Never seen this, says Brandon, though. I own it. Maybe I'll watch it tonight. Well, not if you go by Myers fan's recommendation. Tony 4, I said, love Cat's Eye as a kid. The Troll is the best. Great cat film, along with The Uncanny, Peter Cushing. The Troll story is best, says Muckman. Hey, Muckman, good to see you. Awesome 50 says Cat's Eye is a fun anthology. I remember the trailer being really good. Plus, I love cats, so I'm probably biased. Me too. I love cats as well. The Quitters Inc. Story was really good. The other 2 were just watchable, though. And Paul says, I have a real soft spot for Cat's Eye. Sold the big box VHS recently. Love the Troll and the Christine Carr cameo. Yeah. Isn't there a Cujo cameo or something, if I remember rightly? Robert Ford said, this is one of my most favourite films of '85. I remember the film was filled with references to other Stephen King works, like a brief appearance of a bloody St. Bernard. Thank you. Yeah, there you go. Resembling the killer car from Christine. Adore Cat's Eye, says Richard, especially the first segment with James Woods quitting smoking. And Paul Rose says, walking about the ledge brings back memories of me doing just that, but I was in cowboy boots. Okay, we have 2 titles left, folks. Let's kick off the vote for the penultimate title. Transylvania 65000. 3 million budget, released on November the 8th, 1985. Rudy DeLuca directed this. Lee Holdridge did the music. Jeff Goldblum, Ed Begley Jr., Carol Kane, Jeffrey Jones, Gina Davis. Quite a big cast for the time. Michael Richards, Donald Gibb, Norman Fell, Teresa Gansel. 2 tabloid reporters, Jack Harrison and Gil Turner, are sent to Transylvania to verify rumors of Frankenstein's monster. While there, they discover a bizarre town full of classic monsters, a wolfman, a vampire, a mummy, and more. Their assignment becomes chaotic as they confront experiments by Dr. Malavagua, twisted alliances, and the true identity of Frankenstein. Only 11 of you vote, so it looks like a few of you are abstaining from this. This was a PG in the UK, I remember. It's difficult to call it a horror. It's just a lot of horror characters in it, I guess. 15 seconds left, folks. Director has a small cameo in the film. The film is often regarded as a flawed horror comedy with ambition. Leonard Maltin famously one-word reviewed it as, "It stinks." Okay, so Transylvania 65000 is 4th. 2nd in tier 4. Nobody voted it 1st. Nobody voted it 2nd. 2 in 3rd place. 8 in 4th place. And 2 in 5th. Tony Foray says, what the fuck is this? A Frank special? This was actually I remember it was a big kind of home entertainment release at the time. It's a good cast. It is a good cast. And you can see Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis worked together before they did The Fly. The cover doesn't help this film. I've always skipped it, said Daz. Louis Teague is 87. Last thing he directed was in 2010. Okay. Good for him. This is like something Frank would choose as a worst pick. I've never heard of it. Only seen it once, but remember it being a bit dull. I really need to try it again. Yeah, I think, yeah. I've got no, yeah, I can't be bothered. Lee Holdridge also did the music for the Bruce and Sybil series, Moonlighting, which was about the same time. Okay, thank you. And Colin says, sounds like it's been pulled right out of Frank's holiest of holes, this one. Don't you remember it, Colin? I'd have thought this would have been one that you remembered from the old video shop days. Punkachino says, 65000 is another one I loved as a kid, but I know it's rubbish, so voted it 4th. Okay, let's kick off our last vote. I know this film now has a lot of fans. I'm not a fan of it. Frank's a huge fan of this, and I skipped buying the recent Arrow 4K release of this. It's the stuff. Final movie to vote on. I don't think this is going to trouble the top tier at all, but I do know there are a lot of fans out there of the stuff. A budget of 4 million. 2nd of October of August 1985 it was released. 65% on Rotten Tomatoes, both with audiences and critics. Directed by Larry Cohen. Music by Bernard Herrmann was one of his last scoring jobs. Michael Moriarty, Andrei Markovici, Garrett Morris, and Paul Savino. Paul Savino. A mysterious dessert product, the stuff, becomes a hot-selling snack, but consumers soon discover it is a living parasitic substance that takes over people's minds. A former FBI agent and a food company exec team team up to uncover the deadly truth. 30 seconds left. Bernard Herrmann died shortly after completing The Score. The Stuff is among his final film works. The film satirizes consumer culture, mass marketing, and corporate greed as much as it is horror. And The Stuff special effects use practical goo, puppetry, and clever cinematography rather than expensive visual effects. 8 seconds, folks. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. There we are. That was our last title. And The Stuff finishes 5th in the second tier. 2 of you voted it in first, 8 of you in second, 6 of you in third, 2 of you in fourth, and 3 of you in fifth. Let's see what people think about this. Colin says, down vaguely when you mentioned the cast. Yeah, you Transylvania 65000. Don Max says, I recommend The Stuff. It tastes great. Frank, loving it is all you need to know. Wraith UK says, I love how they first find the white stuff coming out of the ground and what they do first. Eat it. Stuff is a satirical horror gem. Today's equivalent of The Stuff would be non-dairy ice cream. Love The Stuff. I'm a big Larry Cohen fan, and this typical Cohen fare with interesting social commentary. Brandon says Larry Cohen was hit or miss with me. I dislike this one, but love Q the Winged Serpent. Yeah. Another one I have a soft spot for. Some decent effects. I had a pot of the stuff. Think I sold it. Did you try it? I think Frank said. I think Frank had some as well, if I remember right. How can you not love Chocolate Chip Charlie? God Told Me To is Larry Cohen's best. Okay, so let's just have a look at that final ranking there. We have in first place, and the winner of the vote of 1985, the horror of 1985, is Fright Night. Second, we have Return of the Living Dead. So those 2 titles will go through to the final in about 5 or 6 weeks' time. Third place, we have Nightmare on Elm Street. In fourth place, we have George A. Romero's Day of the Dead. In fifth place, Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. In sixth place, we have Re-Animator. And in seventh place, we have Demons. In eighth place, we have Silver Bullet. Ninth place, we have House. Cat's Eyes in 10th place, with Phenomena in 11th place. The Stuff is in 12th. Lifeforce in 13th. Spookies in 15th. 14th, 15th, 16th. 1 second, let me just catch up again. Where are we now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Spookies is in 14th. Howling 2 in 15th. The Bride is in 16th. Transylvania 65000 is in 17th. Wes Craven's Chiller in 18th. The Hills Have Eyes 2 in 19th. And Ghoulies. Not a lot of love for Ghoulies. That movie finishes in 20th. So yeah, so as I said, Fright Night and Return of the Living Dead go through to the final. Move over to this stream here. Thank you again for joining us, folks. Slightly longer than what we normally go. It's a few minutes over. I usually like to keep it to 2 hours, but we're running over. What I wanted to do was just share with you what we, some of the titles that we're going to do next week. So I'll put this up here. So this is 1986. So next Thursday at 10 p.m. we will have. This is just half of the titles. These are the ones that I looked at and I thought, yeah, these are definitely in. And then the other 10 I'll work out as the week goes on. But April Fool's Day, Chopping Mall, Critters, The Fly, The Hitcher, From Beyond, Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Night of the Creeps, and Psycho 3 will all be in contention next week. And I'll add the other 10 over the weekend and push those out on Instagram and the YouTube channel feed. So there we go. Thank you very much, folks. Again, I really appreciate you all turning up for these shows. I was worried that it might run out of steam after a few episodes, but you know, we did this stream tonight, and we had, I don't know, it was 90 people watching at one stage, which is just absolutely fantastic. It really, really is great that you guys are tuning in for this. And we'll keep going. We'll keep going up until that final in about 5 or 6 weeks' time. Like I said, I will take a break just while For the Love of Horror happens in Manchester in 2 weeks' time. I think 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks today we'll be heading up there. But yeah, thank you again for joining, and I shall see you all very soon. Cheers.